Good afternoon again, everyone. My name is Leonard, and on behalf of Aussiepay, I will be guiding you through this afternoon's presentation, where we will be taking a detailed look at the end of financial year proceedings for 2017. For those of us who are just joining, a copy of this webinar will be sent to you after the recording. There will also be a link where you can watch it on our YouTube channel. Now, going into today's agenda, the things we will be covering: what is a payment summary? What is an ETP? Due dates, 8 key tips, checking and reconciling, terminations, ordering payment summaries, the fact that we may contact you, what to do in the event of a mistake, what are the charges, single touch payroll, and then a quick summary. Moving on to our first item, what is a payment summary? A payment summary is basically a statement that records your employee's total gross pay, total tax, any allowances and deductions, reportable contributions, termination payments in a particular financial year. This information is tracked and submitted electronically to the ATO. In essence, a payment summary is just a snapshot of what the employee has received from you, the employer. It does not take into account their personal circumstances, which may include things such as other employment or other income streams. Many of you may already be familiar with what a payment summary looks like, but just as a brief overview, it'll include the employee's name and address, identify the payment summary year or the financial year that it relates to, the start date and the end date of the period that it's reporting, the employee's tax file number, the gross payments and any other special payments to be identified, and of course the tax withheld. An ETP, or employee termination payment, is a payment that is made to an employee in correspondence or in relation to a termination. These may be things, for example, such as payment in lieu of notice, redundancy payments, golden handshakes or escracha payments that you make to an employee as a result of their termination. A separate payment summary is issued for each payment or code that is made, but not all employees who are terminated will receive an ETP payment summary. And we will go into this in a bit more detail later. This is just a sample of an ETP payment summary, and again, it follows very much the same logic as a payment summary. It includes the employee's personal details, identifies a financial year that it corresponds to, the TFN, the value of the ETP payment, the tax applied to that ETP, and of course the coding of that ETP payment. Moving on to key dates. Now, reportable fringe benefits were due to be submitted by the 19th of May. However, we have extended the deadline for RFB submissions to the 13th of June. If you haven't already submitted your RFB data to Aussiepay, please ensure you submit this information to us by the 13th to ensure a smooth payment summary production process. Any changes to employee information, that would include changes to tax details, employees' names, addresses, etc., this information should be submitted to us by the 30th of June for updating. Order forms should be submitted to us along with the signed off employer and employee details forms by the 7th of July. And for those of you that would be interested in ordering a year-end CD or USB, these order forms should be submitted by the 14th of July. Moving on to 8 key tips. These are tips to ensure that you have a smooth and efficient payment summary production process. And so the first step is to start preparing and planning now. Get yourself in order, make sure any issues that you're already aware of, we start to put plans in place and communicate anything to us that needs to happen early so that we avoid any last-minute issues and, of course, meet your obligations. Educate your stakeholders. So let any other person that might be involved in your payment summary production process know what you will need from them and when you will need it by. This applies particularly to your payment summary signatories, who will of course be responsible for signing off on the employer details form and the order form as well. This may also extend to any persons who may be involved in checking or validating additional information. You may want to make sure that they're aware of what their obligations are and by what deadline they need to get back to you. Now, you want to make sure that you are ready to order, i.e. all your information is in order, it is correct, and your forms are signed off by the appropriate authorities. But try not to order your payment summaries too early. You want to make sure that you, of course, have your information correct and that there is opportunity to capture any changes or adjustments that you need to make. You definitely don't want to rush through the ordering process. Our forms have changed somewhat from previous years, so you want to make sure that you're filling in everything correctly so that you get the information in the way you expect it to. Of course, you need to check your reports thoroughly. This is going to save you a lot of time by making sure that anything that may be a potential issue is identified early and we have enough time to fix them. Of course, reconcile all your reports because these balances is what will appear on your employee's payment summary, so you want to ensure that you get these right. On the flip side, you want to give yourself time, but don't order too late. The order forms are due on Thursday, the 7th of July. This is so that we ensure that we have enough time to produce everyone's payment summaries by the ATO's deadline of the 14th. So again, ensure that you're thorough, ensure that your reports are checked and everything is correct, but don't leave anything to the last minute. Lastly, help us to help you. The end of financial year is a busy time for all of us, and in order to ensure that we get the payment summaries correct and out on time, we generally ask that any non-urgent queries or non-end of financial year queries be postponed, if possible, until after the payment summary production process has been completed. Moving on to checking and reconciling. Now, the things you want to be looking for in checking and reconciling your reports is that the employer details are correct, the employee details are also correct, reportable employer super contributions, that these have been recorded and are being reported correctly, any reportable fringe benefits, any allowances and deductions that may need to be reported to the ATO. And in reconciling, we generally use the month-end payroll summary that you receive at the end of your last June payroll, along with your payment summary reconciliation report, which you will receive in your year-end package. And you may want to reference your general ledger as well. Now, this is just a sample of the employer details report for those of you who may not have seen it before. Key things that you need to watch for is that the employer name and the employer registered address coincide with your ABN's business address. If this is not the postal address and you like your payment summaries to go to a different address, please ensure that your consultant is aware of this. You'll also need to check your employer phone and fax number. And again, also ensure that the ABN is correct for your entity as well as a payment summary signatory. You also want to ensure that the ANZIC code we have recorded does fit into your primary business activity or industry. Moving on to the employee details report. Now, some of your employees may be empowered to update their own address details through employee self-service. If that is the case, you want to ensure that they have already logged on and checked that their information is up to date before you start checking the reports. Alternatively, you could give them a deadline to have their details updated. And now with this report, the things you want to be checking obviously are that the employee's name is correct, that the employee's start date is correct, that their TFN details are up to date, and anyone with a generic TFN, for example, 111, which is what you can see here, 000, that these are updated prior to the 30th of June with that employee's correct TFN details. Any termination dates, you want to ensure that we've recorded those correctly. And of course, that employee's address details. Of course, a point to note is that these addresses should all be Australian addresses. If you have an employee with an overseas address, we either recommend obtaining a local postal address for that employee, or we may also send it care of your company address. If you do identify any changes in this report, please list them in the changes column and forward that information to your consultant, who will have it updated. Moving on to reportable employer superannuation contributions. RESC are superannuation contributions that you make to your employee that the employee has had some sort of influence over. Any employer contributions where the employee does not have any sort of input in how or when it is paid may not be classified as RESC. Now, some examples of this might be where an employee makes a salary sacrifice arrangement, or they may negotiate in their contract to pay an additional super amount on a lower base salary. These are generally things that you want to report to the ATO. But if it's a fixed arrangement where the employee has no input, then it's generally not classified as RESC. So again, to reinforce, what should be included in RESC? Salary sacrifice, and any additional employer contributions that your employee has asked you to make or has been part of contract negotiations. What should not be included in RESC is the 9.5% superannuation guarantee, any award superannuation contributions, or any company-wide additional employer contributions. And as you can see in the example here, you may have a policy in place that says all of your employees receive 15% superannuation on top of their base salary. In this example, the employee doesn't have any input into whether it gets paid or not, so that's not classified as RESC. Now this is a sample of the reportable RESC report. Just like the other reports, it will list the period that it relates to. So for example, the 1st of July to the 30th of June. It will list the employee's name and any possible reportable contributions in that financial year and the current reportable flag, as you see here. So in this case, these first two employees both have salary sacrifice arrangements. Therefore, these will be reported to the ATO, and these amounts have been marked as reportable yes. In the last example, John Orbson here has these flags marked as no. This is likely because he has an arrangement with the company has in place a fixed arrangement where they pay an additional percentage or an additional dollar amount. So this amount will not appear in his payment summary or be reported to the ATO. Moving on to reportable fringe benefits. The reportable fringe benefits year ended on the 31st of March 2017, which means most of you are probably in the process of preparing or have prepared your FBT returns. Now, if you identify any employees with RFB values over $2,000, these are required to be reported on their payment summaries, and we ask that you please provide us with the amount already grossed up. You should have already received a template. We ask that you fill this template out with the employee's name and the grossed up reportable amount. If you haven't already received this template, please contact your consultant and a copy can be provided. Moving on to allowances and deductions. Now note that not all allowances and deductions are required to be reported. and these amounts will be displayed on the payment summary based on the reason for the payment, not necessarily what it has been labeled. If you do have any concerns about whether something should be or shouldn't be reported on your employee's payment summary, please refer to the ATO or contact your payroll consultant with any questions and get clarification. Now, some examples of allowances that you may need to report are phone and internet, kilometers, motor vehicle, 2 allowances, and laundry. Now, some items to note: kilometers, only amounts over 5,000 kilometers are compulsory for reporting on the payment summary. However, you can choose to report all kilometer allowances. Also, with laundry allowances, you may want to distinguish between laundry allowances that are, for example, dry cleaning your employees' business shirts, which have different reporting requirements, to laundering protective clothing or compulsory company uniforms, wherein the latter would be considered reportable. The former, in the case of the business shirts, it is not. You'd also want to consider your deductions, and deductions that are generally considered reportable to the ATO are union contributions, any professional association fees, and any workplace giving arrangements. Now, in checking and reconciling your reports, you want to identify or reconcile to the amounts on the payment summary reconciliation report, because these are the amounts that will again appear on the employee's payment summary. In order to come to that gross payment value, the general guide or very simple guide that we utilize is payments less any lump sum, or so total payments, I should clarify, less any lump sum or after-tax payments, minus any deductions before tax, as you can see there, payments less lump sum, less after-tax payments, less deductions before tax, and this will give you the gross pay as it will appear on the payment summary. Now, in checking your reports, you should be able to reconcile each category on the payment reconciliation report to the relevant section in your month-end payroll summary. So lump sum payments, taxes, allowances, deductions, and RESC should all reconcile to their corresponding section. Focusing on terminations, all payments contribute to gross pay for terminations with the following exceptions: payments in lieu of notice, genuine redundancy, and gratuity payments, which will generally be treated as ETP payments, and long service leave accrued prior to the 16th of August 1978, which is generally treated as a lump A payment. Again, ETPs can include payments in lieu of notice, payments that are made in a redundancy that exceed that employee's tax-free threshold, payments that are made for RDO balances or sick leave balances on termination, compensation payments or settlement claims, and some invalidity or death payments. Each ETP payment will be designated a code, which may be code O or code R typically. If you do require any further clarification on ETP coding for your terminations, please contact your payroll consultant for more information, and they'll be able to assist you. Each ETP payment is included on the employee termination report, which you will receive in your year-end package. Now, moving on to lump sum A payments. These are payments of leave, and they attract a different tax rate and are specific to the termination reason, and some early leave accruals. And those are where long service leave is accrued between the 16th of August 1978 and the 17th of August 1993. Annual leave for leave accrued prior to the 18th of August 1993. Long service leave or annual leave due to genuine redundancy, invalidity, or approved early retirement schemes. Lump sum B payments relate to unused long service leave prior to the 16th of August 1978, and this also attracts a different tax rate. Lump sum B payments are payable on all termination reasons other than genuine redundancy, invalidity, or approved early retirement. In those scenarios, again, those payments would be classified as lump sum A. The last classification to consider in your termination payments is lump sum D. Now, this is the tax-free portion of any genuine redundancy package that your employee will receive. It is dependent on the years of completed service for that employee, and this is not deemed assessable income for the ATO's purposes. We move on to ordering your payment summaries. Now, this is a quick snippet of what your order form will look like. It will give you a brief summary of what we require from you and an explanation of the process. It'll ask you to select your ordering option, be it standard or express, your delivery options for employees, as well as your delivery options for employers. It will also include details of the charges associated with each service. It's important to remember that each of these questions requires an answer. Please only select one answer, though, at each step. Again, the charges associated with production of payment summaries are outlined at the bottom of the form. So if you have any questions there, you can refer to the form. However, if you still need further clarification, please feel free to contact your consultant. It is mandatory that this form is signed by the payment summary signatory. So again, include that in your planning if your payment signatory might be unavailable during the year-end process. You want to ensure that you get this signed before you lose access to them. When to submit your order form. Your order forms should be submitted after you've confirmed that your final payroll for the month has been processed. You've reviewed your year-end reports and ensured that everything is correct. You've confirmed any reportable fringe benefits amounts to us. You've confirmed that we've recorded any RESC applicable correctly. And of course, any allowances and deductions that might be reported to the ATO have been recorded correctly as well. Any payroll with an accounting date between the 1st of July rather, and the 30th of June will be allocated to the current financial year. Also, something to bear in note is that if you are making a payment in the current financial year, or rather a payment that has an accounting date in the current financial year and the payment date falls in the next financial year, one of these should be updated so that it is treated, so the accounting date and the payment date both fall in the same financial year. You may opt to move your payment forward or backwards depending on your circumstances. Now, As an additional service, we offer the opportunity to get your data for the financial year sent to you on a CD or USB. If you're interested in this service, please complete the form and submit it to your consultant prior to the 14th of July 2017. We will commence CD production after the 14th of July, of course, to ensure that all payment summaries have been produced in a timely manner. Now, during the end of financial year process, we may need to contact you to clarify any number of things, which might be employees' dates of birth, any changes or amendments to earning signatories, to confirm your final payroll for the year, any minimum wage increases or scheduled salary increases, and of course, if for the next financial year you might be impacted by having an additional pay period. This usually only applies to weekly or fortnightly clients. Monthly clients are unaffected. Now, what to do if there is a mistake? The first step is, of course, not to panic. Simply gather as much detail as you can in regards to the error. Contact your consultant and let them know what the issue is. They, in turn, will make the necessary adjustments. They will provide you with revised year-end reports. You need to approve these adjustments on time. And, of course, reapprove your year-end reports. The charges applicable to this year's year-end proceedings are, of course, the payment summary production, which is charged at your standard payroll processing fee. Express processing fee applies if you choose to have your payment summaries produced within the faster than the standard 5-day turnaround. If you choose to have your payment summaries delivered by mail, there may be postage and printing costs applied as well. And of course, if in the event of an error being identified after the payment summary production process is complete, there is a rollback and reproduction charge. Now, many of you have already started inquiring or may be receiving news or information regarding single touch payroll. We want to assure all of our clients that it is our objective to keep innovating our service offerings, and we are already in the process of developing an onboarding tool in our journey towards SDP. If you'd like to keep track of our progress regarding single touch payroll, you can get more information from our blog at www.aussiepay.com.au. In summary, we want you to remember those 8 key tips to ensure that you have a smooth and efficient payment summary production process. Don't forget those due dates. As mentioned before, RFB has been extended to the 13th of June. We also ask that you have all employee data changes to us by the 30th of June and your order forms submitted by the 7th. Don't forget to check and reconcile your year-end reports. Ensure any terminations and ETP coding have been treated correctly. Of course, do remember to submit your order form and submit your order form on time. Bear in mind that we may contact you to clarify any changes or highlight any issues we might find. And in the event of a mistake, don't panic. Contact us with the details of any adjustments necessary. We will get that corrected for you, and at that point you just need to reapprove your reports. Lastly, we would like to let you know that we've recently launched a new help center. We've made a few changes for the better. There's revised help topics and guides and a new search bar to help you get the information that you need. much quicker and much easier. You can join in the discussion and help improve our current content by rating or reviewing our help pages and using our new comments section to get involved with the community. The new Help Center is available now from the main menu of your Aussiepay account. At this time, we pause to take any questions that you might have. Kirsten, I noticed that you have asked if a copy of this presentation will be available. The answer is yes. The recording will be sent out to all attendees after the meeting, and a copy will also be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Thank you for your question, Rocky. Rocky asked when are payment summaries available online through employee self-service. That is subject to the day that we produce the payment summaries. So for example, assuming we received your order on the 7th of July and you went through the standard processing, that would be approximately 5 business days, which would take you to the following Friday, and the payment summaries become available online as soon as the process is finalized. So in short, it comes down to when you place your order, whether you choose to go express or standard, but usually once that process is completed, the payment summaries are available online straight away. Well, again, I'd like to thank everyone for their time this afternoon. I hope I've addressed all of your questions and concerns. Again, a copy of today's presentation will be available to you after this meeting. Please subscribe to our newsletter to stay up to date with the latest news, tips, and more. www.aussiepay.com.au. Thanks again for watching, and do enjoy your weekend.